Good morning, you guys, and welcome back to another, I don't know if I should say episode, that feels weird, but another video where we are doing meal prepping and cooking, and I'm just bringing you along for the ride. So I hadn't originally planned on filming this particular day. I had already started everything, and then I was like, oh, I should turn the camera on. It's good content. So I'm going to kind of backpedal a little bit here. Obviously, you can see that we made pancakes. I will link in the description of this video either links to the recipes that I used or links to my own recipes on the website. Right now I'm making pancakes, and whenever I take the time to do this, I make a lot of pancakes, enough so that I can put them in the freezer and have pancakes for the rest of the month. I try to have pancakes about once a week for breakfast. I typically estimate that on any given morning the kids will eat probably about 2 apiece, and then Seth will eat, probably 3. So I'm roughly estimating that I need to make about 15 regular sized pancakes to put in the freezer for breakfast, or several more miniature pancakes. So you'll see a solid mix in this video. Now what I'm doing right now is I am grinding up whole oats. I'm doing this in the reason for this is I am going to be meal prepping some snacks for the kids in just a little bit in this video, and that starts with blending up whole rolled oats. I need this oat flour essentially to make things like homemade protein balls and homemade Clif bars. The kids are very active. We have a small homestead / mini farm here. They're constantly running around, and they do take dance class and drama classes and all that stuff. So they're very busy, and I like to limit the snacking of Goldfish and crackers and things like that and put more higher protein whole grains in their diet when I can. It seems to help them be fuller longer, which is important when you have a whole brood of kids that you're taking care of. And making Clif bars and making homemade protein balls starts with oat flour, which is a very simple thing you can do. You can take any breakfast oats, like oatmeal oats, and grind them up into a powder. And there you go, that's the first step. Also going to be grinding up some coconut, shredded coconut, because we add this into, I'm pretty sure it's the protein balls is the recipe that I added this into, but I'm talking to you while I'm watching this back myself. So I'm like 99% sure that's what we use that for. Now, what I had in the black pot next to the stove was the ingredients that I had simmering for homemade taquito filling. I make this, you can see it right now, I make this with tomatillos primarily. So during the summer months when we have our tomatillos coming in on the farm, I go ahead and I cook them down in the crock pot with garlic and onions and kind of turn it into this tomatillo, garlic, onion mixture. It's almost like soup, and then I can it, and I'll use that for cooking throughout the rest of the year. So in this particular circumstance, what I did was I took a jar of that, put it in the pot, heated it up to a simmer, added about 8 ounces of cream cheese, added about half a jar of salsa, like just a small 8-ounce jar of salsa, shredded chicken, and then what you just saw, mozzarella cheese. Mix it all up, and then we're going to hit this in a few moments with our food processor, our hand mixer essentially. I'm also going to throw in about a tablespoon of fajita seasoning to this as well, just because it rounds out all the flavors. All right, now another thing that we're doing here, another homemade snack that you're going to see us prepping here is homemade beef jerky. This is super simple. I will link the marinade for this essentially in the video for you, again in the description. But we just take like a beef brisket, cut it up super thin, and then we marinate it overnight. Then we're going to go ahead and put this into the dehydrator for about 8 hours. And then at the end of the video, you'll get to see the finished product for the beef jerky. This is great. We love this. To be able to put things into my dehydrator, I had to take the rose petals that we were dehydrating out. My oldest daughter had asked for some rose water for her skin. So to do that, we dehydrated a ton of rose petals. I'm going to pour some filtered water on this and let it sit for a month. And at the end of the video, you'll get to see that product as well too. So here you can see that mixture that I was talking to you about, the taquito mixture. I don't want to hit this too much with the stick mixer to the point that it becomes certifiable mush, but I want it to all blend cohesively together. You can see I also threw in a couple of bell peppers. I'm pretty much putting frozen bell peppers in everything right now, so that's another thing we threw into this particular mixture just to get some extra vegetable content in there. Then all we had to do was take some oil and fill a nice large pot with it. I didn't fry these to the point that they were submerged in oil. There was a decent coating along the bottom, but these weren't like dunked in oil and cooked. We're going to heat up some corn tortillas to make it easier to roll them. A viewer actually suggested that to me, heating up the corn tortillas. You are awesome if you're watching this. Hi, I appreciate you. You are fantastic. And then we're just going to roll these up and place these into our hot oil to crisp them on both sides. And again, since I'm cooking this right now, I am giving this to everybody for lunch, but I'm also making enough that I can stick it in the freezer, and in the future I can pull this out and have, boom, lunch, don't have to worry about it. Quick, easy meal. I know exactly what's in it. I know that there's protein and veggies and homegrown ingredients. It just makes life really simple that way. I like to, when I'm cooking, at least make enough for one more meal. Cook big, freeze it, and save yourself some time later. So my sweet daughter Ella, she asked if there was anything I needed help with, and I asked her if she wouldn't mind putting the beef slices that have marinated onto our dehydrator racks, which she did, which was wonderful and so helpful. Once the pancakes had cooled, I was able to put them in a Ziploc bag, label them, and then I'll be able to just go to the freezer. I do have the freezer sectioned off into like breakfast type foods versus dinner, and then ingredients that you're just going to cook with. It makes it a little bit simpler since we do bulk cook so often or meal prep so often. It makes it simpler to know, hey, I can just go in and grab it from this section rather than digging through the entire bottom of the freezer. Seth was really sweet and came over and did a crossword with me while I was cooking, which I really enjoyed. We love doing crosswords together. I like to take the time to do a bunch of meal prepping when I can, because sometimes our lives get very busy and chaotic, and it's not every day that I feel like cooking. I'm not just in a cooking mood every single day. So on the days where we're doing other things, it's really nice to be able to just pull food out of the freezer and not have to worry about it. I do love to cook. I do really enjoy it, but not every day. So for our homemade protein balls, I'm going to take some mini chocolate chips and I'm going to grind them up in a second. But of course the kids and Seth and everybody saw the mini chocolate chips and like, okay, I gotta get into these, which cracks me up. So we're going to take our oat flour, we're going to put it into a large mixer. We're going to add into this a scoop or two of protein powder. We're also going to add into this about a half a cup of small chocolate chips. You can put in as much as your heart desires in this circumstance. And then we're also going to add into this both honey and peanut butter. The exact amounts will be in that description in the video. I did find that even though I put this in my KitchenAid mixer, it wasn't coming together exactly the way that I wanted it to, so I did transfer this to my food processor, and that seemed to just blend everything together better. And then I used a cookie scoop, scooped it out, rolled it up, put it on a parchment-lined cookie sheet, and I pop these into the freezer for about a half an hour, and then I will label these in a gallon-size Ziploc bag protein balls. And I actually take these out on Monday morning and let them thaw, and then put them into a glass jar that the kids can just get into and snack on these. I do it on Mondays specifically because that's when the girls have their dance class. So I know they're going to want to have some before, since we end up having a very late dinner on Mondays. The ingredients for our homemade Clif bars are very similar, but we're going to start these off with dates, pitted dates. And we're going to put, I don't exactly remember, again, the recipe will be in the description of this video, because these ones are not mine. The homemade protein balls and the homemade Clif bars, these are not my recipes, so I don't just know them off the top of my head. But we're going to take these and put them into our food processor and give these a really rough chop. You want them to be small enough that they will mix and incorporate with the other ingredients, but they're kind of difficult to puree, I would say, but we want to dice these up pretty good. After those are all diced up, I'm going to take these out of my mixer because I want to take some almonds, dice those up as well. The almonds, they chop up really beautifully. They get really, really fine. But I want to get those separate so they don't kind of stick together with the dates, since the dates are very sticky. And then this actually ended up working the opposite way, where I started this in the food processor and ended up transferring this to the mixer at some point. But we're going to take our oat flour, we're going to take our dates, we're going to take our almonds, we're going to add into this our coconut, and then we're going to put into this rice cereal. It gives it a really good crisp to these homemade Clif bars. And then we're going to add into this peanut butter and honey, a little bit of salt. You can see my sweet girls in the background helping me roll these out into balls. And we're going to mix this up. And then you'll see again this being put into the stand mixer because it was just too much for my food processor. And then the way that I rolled these out, I did it on a piece of parchment paper, and I had to smack the bejesus out of this because it did not want to flatten, and it did take a little bit of work. It's worth it though. Everybody loves these. I mean, to the point that I could see myself ending up making them once a week. They're really very good. So rolled these out nice and thin, and then I ended up cutting them into our desired size and wrapping them in parchment paper. Some people will recommend that you wrap these with string, but I found that because of the honey and because of the peanut butter, the parchment paper will actually stick to it if you press down firmly on it. And then I put these in a large glass jar, and I actually leave this on the dining room table so the kids can get into them in between meal times if they find themselves to be in a snacky mood. And it's really just as simple as that. These were excellent, very, very good. So this is actually very concentrated, so we'll water this down a little bit more. So here you can see our homemade rose water. It's exceptional for your skin. It's really great. And it's very simple to make, especially if you grow roses or have access to rose petals. So this is super easy to do. And then this was our homemade beef jerky. Now we actually made a ton more than this, but this has been devoured and this is all we have left. It's just really outstanding and very easy to make if you have a dehydrator. So that is going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed meal prepping with me today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.